Hello, and welcome to this week's Movie Math, where, holy kaiju, that's a lot of money. Nobody expected this. What an incredible... Some people are saying it's a great Easter surprise, and it sure is. We're going to talk about Easter emerging as a hot new release date for movies. But there's just so much happening here. It really turned out to be like a perfect storm of so many things. It's just incredible. It was a wonderful surprise for Hollywood that desperately needed a wonderful surprise. It's great. But you know what? It's great for Japanese culture overall in Hollywood right now. Not just with the recent win for Godzilla -1, now Godzilla x Kong, but also we got some really great stuff going on with Hulu's Shogun to talk about today. So pretty nice. You know, South Korea for a while was getting a lot of the attention in the Hollywood marketplace. Now it's looking great for Japan. Very exciting. The globalization of Hollywood has been an interesting journey. And let's give credit where credit is due. Netflix for broadening the audience of the West because they lean so heavily into dubbing. And that, because I like to watch it mostly subtitled. I only did it once for Society of the Snow because I was eating dinner and it was too hard to read the subtitles. But a lot of people watch the stuff dubbed all over the world. And, before Hollywood producers were gatekeepers who would remake the content in English language. So it's really fascinating how much Netflix was able to change that. All right, so yes, there's a lot of win to unpack today. So much win, which, as I said, is a welcome surprise and a refreshing change of pace as Hollywood is still recovering from the dual strikes of last year. That's what's going on right now. A lot of doom and gloom after Q1 in 2024. It was rough. We all just sat through it. It was tough. But it's mostly cleanup from 2023. Although we'll see what happens at the Disney shareholder meeting on Wednesday. That has the potential to be quite the hiccup. All right, so who are the big winners? The big winners, obviously, the Monsterverse. With the biggest global debut of the year so far, even bringing China back online for Hollywood. China loved Godzilla x Kong. They thought it was a fabulous movie. This is like old school China box office for a Hollywood film. It can still be done. This is the second best domestic opening of the year, right behind Dune Part 2. They basically opened the same. And both are from Warner Brothers. Oh, we're going to talk about Zazie. And it's the second biggest opening ever for the Monsterverse since it launched a decade ago. That's nice. That's some nice bookending. With Gareth Edwards as Godzilla. Remember that guy? He's making a comeback. He had a really rocky road for a while after Godzilla. But he just signed on to take over another giant monster franchise, by the way, Jurassic World. Oh, wow. Hollywood, who you know, cyclical, never give up. The lessons, they don't change. All right, so just the people learning them, or in some cases, not learning them. But while Edwards presents himself as more of a prestige filmmaker, he's like, hey, Christopher Nolan and Denis Villeneuve, got room for a third? And I'm like, slow your roll, Edwards. The creator, I liked the creator, but boy, did that bomb financially. All right, so anyway, I think he could maybe do it, though. We'll talk about him a little bit more later on in this very video. All right, so anyway, he's never, though, had audience scores like this. Not without some help from Mr. Tony Gilroy. Although I think they were a good pair. Tony Gilroy needed Gareth Edwards a little bit, it seems. On their own, neither one of them does this well. All right, so you know what else, by the way, came out a decade ago in 2014? A little movie called Guardians of the Galaxy from James Gunn, setting him on his own path. And Adam Wingard borrowed unabashedly, unashamedly, and heavily from Guardians of the Galaxy for his latest Monsterverse film. And both these movies, he picked a good movie to crib off of because both have incredible audience scores. I mean, wow. While Ghostbusters Frozen Empire seems like maybe it's ready to be on digital already. I'm ready for it to go on digital. I still haven't gotten to see it. I will see it on digital. Godzilla x Kong now seems poised to play all the way through April, although it will be losing its premium screens to Civil War on April 12th. Speaking of filmmakers, Alex Garland is running the weirdest campaign for his movie, saying, this is the last movie I'm ever going to direct, at least for a little while, because it turns out I don't like directing that much. And you're like, but everyone thinks Civil War looks great, buddy. Can't you just be quiet for another couple of weeks? All right, a couple of snobs, by the way, speaking of being quiet, a couple of snobs in and out of the Godzilla fandom, but a lot of them in the fandom, have been turning up their noses at Godzilla XK. But come on, how could you not embrace this kaiju-sized win for your brand? I mean, especially, as I said, right after Godzilla Minus One took home the Oscar for Best Visual Effects. That's called a 1-2 punch. You love those. Ba-bam! I mean, it's a great time for Godzilla fans. I can't believe people would be saying such disparaging, negative poo-poo comments about Godzilla X Kong. Take the money and run, man. I mean, it's a lot of money. All right. The next big winner, Adam Wingard. I mean, wow. This is the guy who you all hated after he made that Death Note adaptation for Netflix. I'm not familiar with Death Note as a manga and anime, so I thought it was fine. But he didn't give up. And look at him now. Hollywood is his oyster. He's definitely going to get his wish to complete his Godzilla Kong trilogy. And if he doesn't mess things up with that, and even if he messes it up just a little bit, if you have a win this big in Hollywood, you can get a little bit more mileage out of it. He would have to just, and I don't see why he would, because both of his Godzilla Kong movies are it's pretty good. They're getting better. So they can't like suddenly fall off a cliff. So he's going to be on every studio's shortlist going forward for when they need a franchise director. Adam Wingard. Ah, what a business. Hollywood, what a business. All right, Wingard smartly delivered an inoffensive, middle-of-the-road crowd pleaser, which probably offends some of you more artistic types. But I mean, look at the results. And Warner Brothers teed him up perfectly with an amazing release date. Is this a good sign for Universal's own potential crowd pleaser, The Fall Guy, kicking off the summer movie season in just a few weeks? You know, there's a lot of money in not offending anybody, by the way. Something for everyone to consider. All right, side note, Ryan Gosling knows he's still unproven at the box office. I mean, Barbie was big for him, but it's his only big thing. And I'm sure, Denis Villeneuve sure remembers Blade Runner 2049. I'm sure Ryan Gosling does as well. So he was, speaking of smart, extremely smart to start up his new first-look producing deal with Amazon MGM before The Fall Guy actually opens. Oh, make the deal on the hype, Ryan, because it might not deliver. So I think that was very, very smart of him. Back to Warner Brothers' latest crowd pleaser. So much win. Remember, Godzilla X Kong moved around a heck of a lot before finally settling on Easter weekend. And this is the second time in a row that Easter has been huge for Hollywood. I mean, movies have opened over Easter weekend, obviously, since forever. But like with Labor Day weekend, we seem to have a new mega release date starting to take shape here. I mean, these holidays have always been around. Movies have sometimes, like a big movie's always sometimes opened around there, but they've never been able to start delivering numbers like this. Easter is a hot release date. Now, next year, though, this is why Easter's tough, because it's a moving date, and it gets tricky. Because next year, Easter is the last weekend in April, right before the summer movie season kicks off. So Lionsgate is releasing the Michael Jackson biography for the holiday weekend itself, but then the very next weekend is the first weekend of May, which is when you're supposed to kick off summer, and right now that's where Thunderbolts is positioned. But maybe, considering how well these Easter movies are doing, I'd put Thunderbolts maybe a week early. Sorry, Michael Jackson bio. I'd put Thunderbolts there. I mean, big summer movies have opened in April in the past, some of them from Marvel, and it's turned out great. There's no reason summer movie season can't start in April. If I were Disney, I would move Thunderbolts back a week. I mean, what do you think? I mean, I think it's going to be, I hope the movie's a lot of fun. I think it should be a big crowd pleaser. I think that little video that Florence Pugh Pugh released was great. So we'll see what they decide to do, but I would seriously consider it. I think, again, what you just said, a 1-2 punch. Easter followed by the first full weekend of, the summer movie season. I want them both. I'm not splitting that with Michael Jackson if I'm Marvel. So what would you do? All right, now, speaking of studio executives, wow, look at Zazie on the winners list. Again, just keep your head up, Zazie. You don't know what's around the corner. And here it is. You know what's around the corner? Hit movies. Barbie, Wonka, Dune Part 2, and now, who'd have ever believed it? Nobody ever would have guessed it. Nobody ever would have believed it. But Godzilla X Kong is a huge hit. And these are all franchises, by the way, potentially even Barbie. These aren't one and done. These are going to keep going. Warner Brothers can boast the two biggest openings of the year so far. And not only the biggest movie of 2024, Barbie, but they have the biggest movie of 2023. And probably they'll soon have the top two, because Godzilla's going fast. Can they keep this party going? They might have some surprises over the summer. Godzilla X Kong was certainly a huge surprise. But I think they have very strong contenders, Beetlejuice and Joker in the fall. So they'll probably finish the year as strong as they started. Let's see what their CinemaCon presentation looks like next week with Joker 2. That's gonna be great. And of course, this is all putting Zazie in a position of strength to sell Warner Brothers, which he can start doing, what do you know, right now. Yes, April 2024 was when he had to officially wait to look for a buyer, but he's already been making eyes at Paramount. That flirtation didn't last. But, he's clearly looking to sell. All right, and while nobody saw Godzilla X Kong for the humans, their agents can still build off of this win. Brian Tyree Henry has been in some major blockbusters already, and this will keep him alive because, Eternals flopped. So this is very good for him. But this is new territory for Rebecca Hall and Mr. Dan Stevens from Downton Abbey. He's like, finally! Stevens and Wingard, by the way, are yet another one of those great actor-director relationships we see all the time in Hollywood. I'm telling you, these things are cyclical. These things, you learn from them because they get repeated. And here we go, another actor-director combo. This could just be the start of an amazing overall run for them. I mean, definitely Dan Stevens will be in the next Godzilla X Kong, but it seems like whatever Adam Wingard does after that, he might take Dan Stevens along with him. Surely, as I just said, all these actors, all of them will return for Wingard's next Godzilla XK movie. But they should be able to now pick up some other gigs as well, I think, on the side, based on the strength of this debut. Because who doesn't want to say, hey, you loved them in Godzilla X Kong? Although, they were the human characters. You might be like, I didn't even notice them in Godzilla X Kong. But, Hollywood, they don't care. They want everyone likes to be associated with a win. We got to see what the second weekend drop looks like, obviously, but Godzilla XK already has made more money than Ghostbusters Frozen Empire in just a fraction of the time. I mean, and also the audience scores are so good. People loved this movie. All right, also, one thing about both these movies is that their budgets are reasonable. What? Right? Now one could argue that maybe if Sony had spent a little more, Ghostbusters Frozen Empire would have opened a little bit bigger, right? But what's great about Godzilla X Kong is that it was still able to deliver despite the lower budget. So that means you don't have to spend $200 million to have your movie really blow up. That's really good. So if Gareth Edwards, right, who of course made the creator for just 80 mil, and it looks like a dream. It's beautiful, but it was a horrible disaster at the box office. But anyway, he made the movie for so little money and it looked so good. He got Jurassic World after David Leitch passed on it. After David Leitch passed on it for creative differences, Gareth Edwards got it. So I hope that Gareth Edwards can deliver a Jurassic movie on a blockbuster shoestring budget. That would be phenomenal. But he really is going to need a commercial assist, right? Call up Tony Gilroy, right? I don't know. I mean, Gareth Edwards is very talented. I love the creator, but I don't think he even owns a business hat, much less ever puts it on. So maybe ScarJo. I hope she's been in some flops, but she's also been in some hits. Remember Lucy? And she's a budding producer herself. So maybe if ScarJo can get in on that movie, she can help it in multiple ways. All right, what do you think it's going to take to make Jurassic Park? Every one of the Jurassic World movies made $1 billion. Some of you thought they weren't good. I liked all of them, but they got progressively worse. But they're good. All right. As people sure love dinosaurs. All right, as I do. All right, as for the rest of the box office, Godzilla Frozen Empire's second weekend drop was not good. 65%. That's not like awful. But when you pair it with the only so-so debut, as I said, this baby's ready for digital real soon. It'll be on digital I predict by the end of the month. That's when I would. They might give it a little bit more space, but let's make that money on digital. Meanwhile, Dune Part 2's posted yet another amazing hold. Lisa Nagaib, it's true, it's the prophecy. And has pretty much caught up with Wonka. It did it, really passing 600 million worldwide. That's two he's got twin hits, Timmy C. And of course, he made that deal with Warner Brothers. Margot Robbie and Timothée Chalamet are both now call Warner Brothers their home. So, I think Adam Wingard will probably be calling Warner Brothers his home, and that's just amazing. All right, so it's still Dune 2, by the way, still going very strong. Again, look at that hold, which makes it so weird that Warner Brothers has decided to put it on digital on April 16th. I think if Warner Brothers had given it all of April, before they put it on digital, I think the movie could have gotten really close to 700 million based on how it's performing. But maybe Warner Brothers wanted to give Godzilla XK some space in the theatrical area, right? They're like, let's get Dune Part 2 out of the theatrical space, move it over to digital, let Godzilla X Kong thrive, right? I mean, I said it was weird to release the movies so close together, but who can argue with these results? And Dune Part 2 has already far surpassed the first film's box office, and no Hollywood film in 2024 is even close to it so far. So, but I gotta tell you, I still would have liked to have seen it gotten kind of close to 700. I would have given it all of April. I think it can coexist. Because the only people still seeing Dune Part 2 are the stragglers and the diehards. And they're not going to go see Godzilla X Kong as a substitute if you take Dune off the board. You're just going to lose their theatrical dollars. So I would have given Dune Part 2 all of April. And then I would have had Dune go to digital for May at the beginning of the summer movie season, which I think gives it a little flourish as well. It's like, hey, summer movie season has started. Not only do all these great movies hitting theaters, but now you can watch Dune Part 2 at home. What would you have done? All right, Universal's Kung Fu Panda 4 also continues to do well. Another great hold itself this week. But there's no way at this point it'll catch up to Puss in Boots 2. A phenomenal film. I loved that movie so much. However, outside of that sequel, Puss in Boots 2, it's been a while since a DreamWorks animated movie has done this well. So the animation studio, can hold its head up high at the Universal Round Table. Also, not of respect, How to Train Your Dragon Land was the first one officially fully introduced for next year's Epic Universe theme park. So DreamWorks is sitting pretty nice at that Universal Round Table. And while Immaculate is no anybody but you, kudos to Sydney Sweeney and her PR team, because I've never seen someone get so much attention for a film that is only doing moderately. And that's generous, by the way. But everyone's like, wow, Sydney Sweeney's an Immaculate. She's just getting so much publicity and coverage. She's the talk of everybody. There are rumors swirling around her. It's huge. And again, it's all because of a movie not doing that great. I mean, with Anyone But You, I think a lot of the attention went to Glenn Powell, right? But this one, it's all going to Sydney Sweeney. And while she was an executive producer on Anyone But You, she's a full-on producer on Immaculate. So good for her for taking her future into her own hands. She really needs to, because she's been in some real crap, which she's acknowledging to her credit. With Euphoria Season 3 suddenly delayed, perhaps indefinitely, we'll see what happens. We'll see what she decides to do with this new window in her schedule that's just opened up. So very interesting. She might actually manage to build a career for herself yet. I'll be very curious and excited to see if she can do it. I didn't think she'd be able to. I don't think she's a great actress, but she's definitely a brand. I think she's building herself into a brand. And if she has an eye for projects, it might happen. It might happen. I'm curious. All right, now let's head over. I love when people put a business hat on. All right, now let's head over to streaming, where Nielsen and Variety continue to release competing charts. Again, Variety only focuses on originals Thursday to Thursday, and they claim that Three Body Problem and Roadhouse, which had one day on their charts last week, because they both dropped on a Thursday, exploded with their first full weeks on Variety's charts. Amazon itself says Roadhouse is their most watched movie ever, saying it has 50 million worldwide views in 2 weekends. Man, we all got to get on the same page here for what the window is. How does a movie do? We look at the weekend. That's how it works. Variety is doing Thursday to Thursday, right? For the previous week. Prime Video is doing 2 weekends. Nielsen does Monday to Sunday, but a month ago. Netflix also does Monday to Sunday for just last week. I like the Monday to Sunday window. To me, because it's a little bit like the box office for the movies, but it has like the week leading up to it, right? And the reason I like putting the weekend at the end of the window is because that way you really get a look at how new content performs for the weekend that it drops to be watched on. You drop a show or a movie on Thursday because you want people to watch it through the weekend. So let me see how it did. It's weird to cut your chart off on Thursday just as the new content seems to be, just as it's getting started. So I think that Netflix and Nielsen have the best window, Monday to Sunday. I just wish Nielsen would be faster in getting their numbers out. But what window do you think works best for getting an idea of how streaming is performing? Over on Nielsen's chart, starting with the overall one, Avatar: The Last Airbender did drop a good amount in its second week on these charts. But it's still close to the top. It's still number 2, and it's very close to 2,000. So it's still doing well. It's interesting also to see Aquaman make the overall chart as it hits a max. But still, mostly acquired content on here, dominating the overall chart, which is why it's not great to have charts that don't include acquired content, because then you're not really getting an idea of how the original content is performing, because it's all in the same pool, baby. As for Nielsen's originals chart, it's nice to see Shogun in the middle of the pack with just its first 3 episodes. Maybe as it gets more, it'll break onto that overall chart. But this is where things are going to get really interesting. So Disney Plus has officially integrated Hulu into the app, and Shogun is the second most popular show after Bluey. What a crazy collection of shows on this app now. But yeah, so it goes Bluey and then Shogun. It's great to see Hulu content finally getting some recognition, but at what cost? I think the cost is to Disney Plus, because half of Disney Plus's top trending is suddenly Hulu shows. Should Disney Plus maybe split trending into two sections, one for Disney Plus and one for Hulu? I mean, the content is just so different. Although, what do you do then with Simpsons, which is on Disney Plus, but really is kind of more like a Hulu type show, right? It's great to have Hulu in the interface, for sure, but will it just totally obliterate Disney Plus and the Disney brand? I mean, Disney's all about the brand. That's like their big thing. It's what the whole company's built on. So it's weird to see it just suddenly so diluted. How has your user experience been with the two apps are now officially combined? Then back to movies with Nielsen. Weak again this week. Very weak numbers. I'm excited to see what Roadhouse does to this chart when Nielsen finally catches up to it. It's going to take like 2 more weeks to find out. It's ridiculous. All right, over on Netflix's own charts for just last week again, here's Irish Wish's first full week. It's not great, but it's respectable. You know, it's no Damsel. It's no Leave the World Behind, but it's fine, right? Lindsay Lohan doesn't care, though. On Netflix, you get paid up front. There's no back end on Netflix. So she already made her money off of this, and it was good enough to get Freaky Friday 2 moving. The deal isn't officially signed, but there's chatter. There's chatter. It's happening, and it should probably be announced this week or next. Millie Bobby Brown's Damsel is still going very strong. No deals for her, though, although, you know, I'm sure one's coming. Well, unfortunately, new movie Shirley just didn't end up connecting with audiences. With series Three Body Problem, with its first full weekend, this isn't the full week. It didn't have a full week on the chart, but this is when it dropped. This is when it dropped on Thursday through Sunday. So a lot of people should be watching it when it first drops. And it came close, but couldn't unseat The Gentleman itself in its third week on these charts. So we'll see what the first full week looks like for Three Body Problem, but for a show this expensive from the Game of Thrones dudes, it should have been able to start its run at number 1. Homicide New York is also softer than one would expect from a TV titan like Dick Wolf of Law & Order. Now, he created Law & Order. This is his first Netflix show, you know, but he's old school, but he's just a juggernaut. You know, people like Shonda Rhimes and Ryan Murphy did very well moving over to streaming, but Dick Wolf has not been able to so far make the jump. Just going to show you that it's a little trickier than it looks. All right, finally, over on iTunes, we've got the usual recent theatrical releases mixed in with Easter favorites, right? So what did you watch for Easter? I went with the classic, The 10 Commandments. Still holds up. That's Cecil B. DeMille. Great movie. But it's Mel Gibson's Passion of the Christ at number 1. You know, maybe because The 10 Commandments also plays on TV. You know, it's interesting to see, though, that Mel Gibson's Passion of the Christ is at number 1, which might help Gibson to get his sequel finally off the ground, which he's been working on ever since he made that movie 20 years ago. Considering Jim Caviezel's, this is interesting, considering Jim Caviezel's recent success with Angel Studios, and both he and Gibson being seriously outside the Hollywood loop these days, so far out, I don't think they're ever going to be able to go back in. Angel Studios, though, might be the perfect home for said sequel. Angel Studios is looking for something to do post Sound of Freedom. Mel Gibson's looking for something to do. Jim Caviezel's looking for something to do. I'm telling you, this is it. The first film was made for $30 million 20 years ago. And Gibson says, you know, originally he was promising this big battle-heavy movie. He knows nobody's going to be able to get him that kind of money anymore. But he said he came up with a more grounded sequel, right? So I'm not sure how much money Angel Studios can get together for a budget. Where'd all that Sound of Freedom money go? That movie made a ton of money. But they have also proven to be quite good at crowdfunding. So don't be surprised if Passion of the Christ 2 ends up coming from Angel Studios. Really, a deal that they should all be working on right now. And using this, you know, if they have to raise the money from investors or, you know, not crowdfunding, but from actual investors, you know, point to this being number 1 on iTunes for Easter. There's still a very large audience for this film. So would you see Passion of the Christ 2, and would you consider contributing to its budget through a crowdfunding campaign? All right, and I think that would, you know, Angel Studios, as I said, is really looking for legitimacy. And I think that would go, but I think they very much have made an identity for themselves based on what they've released previously. So this works for everybody involved. All right, I told you got to be able to put your business hat on. As for this coming weekend, 2 movies with almost the exact same poster. It's so ridiculous. Why didn't one of them change? How did this happen? Well, they both hit theaters. Dev Patel is going to try and take his career to the next level himself. Thank you very much. He's been around a long time. Hasn't happened for him. He always comes very close. He's like Nicholas Hoult. Nicholas Hoult finally got there, but James Gunn had to be his fairy godfather. Dev Patel's going to make magic happen himself. I'm very excited for the film. My press screening is this week, and I'll be reviewing it. Well, Disney Fox is going to take another run at the horror genre, but right after the very similar Immaculate, what's with all these nun movies? Is there that much demand for nun movies? As for streaming movies, Wish finally hits Disney Plus on Wednesday, while Netflix has Scoop on Friday about how Prince Andrew's infamous BBC interview went down. Very derivative of The Crown. We'll see if anybody watches that. And with shows, Loot returns to Apple TV with Season 2 starting on Wednesday, while on Thursday there's the final season of Star Trek Discovery starting on Paramount Plus, and Netflix drops all 8 episodes of Ripley. A tour de force! It is one of the best things I've ever seen. I can't review it until the show drops because that's how Netflix does their review embargoes. But I can't wait to talk to you about it. Don't miss this show. That's your weekend watch this coming weekend. I'm telling you, it's incredible. Then on Friday, Colin Farrell has his own Apple TV show starting, Sugar. Hulu has a show called Dinosaur that's actually not about dinosaurs, but a paleontologist, like a female Ross, I guess, right, from Friends. And I think the idea is that she needs to evolve. The trailer was actually pretty good, but I don't know about that title. And then, red, white, and royal blue fans, I know you're there. Nicholas Galitzine, I loved him in Cinderella for Amazon. He's back for Mary and George. Oh, it's spicy. It's spicy and saucy. With Julianne Moore having her son seduce the king to help their family politically. Oh, wow, very sudsy. Now you just got to figure out how to watch Stars. All right, so that's this week's movie math. What have you been watching? What do you plan to watch? And what do you think are the biggest winners with Godzilla x Kong? And can Warner Brothers keep it going? Lots of stuff to discuss today. I can't wait to hear your thoughts about it down below. Subscribe today. And of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.